Got full compliment tonight. First time in 2 weeks. A full compliment. The gang's all here. It's assumption Rabbi Avo came down and told him to do it. Because Rabbi Avo, why else Rabbi Avo come down and tell him to do it? Yeah. No, he told him to do it. Told him this year do it, because I'm telling you, I was there when they were Kovei Rosh Hashanah. So this year he told him to do it. That was, what that was that? Yeah, Vatinun Lulavim B'Shubso. That was 52. Chav base. So take the lulav on Shabbos. Yeah. Vatinun. So they told him to do it. All right. We are on Daf. Yeah. We're on Daf Kaf Ches Amud Aleph. Now, I ran through last night. Oh, you got 57?
How would you know how many?
It's on the front page of the New York Times. Even as cultured individuals are subjected to this trafe and stuff. That's right. Rabbi Said, last night I ran through the last piece of Gemara before the Mishnah because I wanted to make Baruch Hu's disadvantage of being here. One of the disadvantages that they don't wait for me for Baruch Hu. So we are at we're at Kaf Ches Amud Aleph. We're really technically up to Mishnah. I just want to read the last line before the Mishnah was going to come, and it's going to come up again later this evening. The last line before the first Mishnah. No, but I was explaining. That's why I explained it quickly before Baruch Hu how you read it if it's not deleted, and I'm sure nobody got it except maybe the tape. So Amra Bizira Masnisa Amra Kain. The Mishnah tells us this principle. Arba Amos Shomru Einon Tchum. The 4 amos which they gave, the 4 amos which are given are not a tchum. What does it mean? Now, previously the Gemara had said a couple of blot ago that the 4 amos you're given on Shabbos. In other words, if you're a Rosh Hashanah, you have 4 amos which to carry. They're tchum. Whatever object is in your 4 amos at the beginning of Shabbos, your object in your 4 amos, you cannot carry, except under rare circumstance. But you cannot carry, obviously outside your 4 amos, but you can even give to somebody else who has an overlapping 4 amos to take the end of his 4 amos. Is that clear? Of course, you can't carry it out of your 4 amos, and you can't give it to somebody else to carry beyond those 4 amos either. So he said the Arba Amos are Tchum, that object which you have in your Rosh Hashanah, but you can carry 4 amos. You can't give to somebody else to carry another 4 amos, even if it's 4 amos in overlap with yours. Can't give it over. Here it's saying the Arba amos are not tchum. This is a different Arba amos. In the Mishnah it said Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yeshua, when they were coming on a boat, they wouldn't move more than 4 amos on the boat. Why? Because the boat is constantly going beyond 2,000 amos. So therefore they said the whole Shabbos that are stayed in Michutz Tchum. Somebody goes on Michutz Tchum, he's got 4 amos. So says Yerushalmi that may be true, but we see that those 4 amos can't be. We see that on the other hand, these 4 amos in the Mishnah are not a tchum, meaning that were they to be a tchum in the sense which I just described to you, then Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yeshua will not be allowed to grasp any object on Shabbos. Why they not be allowed to grasp any object? Because the object a moment ago was another 4 amos, right? And therefore this object is left in tchum. So therefore, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shua held that they can't move more than 4 amos around the boat, because the boat is traveling more than 2,000 amos all the time. Nonetheless, they can handle objects within their 4 amos, and therefore it must be that the 4 amos on the boat, at least, are not a tchum. Is that clear? In other words, that even though they're restricted to 4 amos, and the object which they're carrying was a moment ago in a different 4 amos, nonetheless they're not prevented from carrying it at this point. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay? Makes sense? Okay, now it's going to come up again later on. Pam Achas, now they were traveling on the boat. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Shua, and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Gamliel and Elazar ben Azariah are the ones who walked the...
Something a little bit different.
I know. Yeah. That's the way I would interpret it. Okay. No, what I say is not Pnei Moshe and not Reb Chaim Kanievsky. It's my interpretation based on what we learned yesterday. Now, Pam Achas Lo Nichdasu Nomo. One time they were traveling all together, the 4 Chachamim, and the thing is, as we mentioned yesterday, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah would move around in the boat, because they held the walls of the boat are their shvisa. Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yeshua are the ones who would stay in one spot within 4 amos, because the walls don't help. They're traveling. They're beyond the tchum. They can't carry. They can't move. So they came to port, but they didn't come to port until after Shabbos began. So they asked Rabbi Gamliel, Manu leire, can we leave the boat? Mutar. He said, yes, you're allowed to leave the boat. Shva'isi mistachla, I was already looking. We got into the tchum before darkness set. So therefore, we were already within 2,000 amos of the port before Shabbos began. Therefore, you can go into port because we were kind of shvitza in the port. Okay? Says the Gemara Mitzudos. Now, the Lieberman brings out a different girsa, Mitzupis. It means binoculars. Mitzupis is more proper, a telescope. Mitzupis is more proper because Mitzupis means litzpos, means to gaze. So Mitzupis he used to estimate with his eyes how far a point was distant from himself, and that's I know they were 2,000 amos away. Meshar literally means on a flat plane. It means, I guess, in the horizon here, how far a point was, and that's I knew they're less than 2,000 amos from port. Now ask Yerushalmi, I understand. A port, I have to tell you this, it's obvious in Yerushalmi, though I don't know if this is true. A port is an enclosed area. So therefore, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, they said at the beginning of the Perek, even if you brought Mechutz Tchum on Shabbos, you're brought from outside the Tchum. If they put you in the middle of a corral or a pen or a city, you get the entire city. So in year 2, asking more, according to Gamliel, Rabbi Yeshua, even they enter the port on Shabbos proper. They enter the Tchum of the port on Shabbos. But they can go around the entire port, like our example of an airport. Right? If you land on Shabbos, you can still go around the entire airport. So too here, they can go around the entire port. Laurent Gamliel, What? All 4 sides.
The port would be open on one side.
Right, you're asking good. That was bothering me. So I think the Yerushalmi answered with the following answer. Right, it's Oymed Murvel Apartz. That's the bottom line. That's what I want to say. Even if it's not fully closed, since its majority is wall, so that's as if the entire thing is closed up. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with over here. Okay, so it says the Tipot Shiur ben Amal Yeser Beis Hasayim. It's talking about one of the cases where the port would have had a problem carrying with had a problem with Tchum, either because it was too large to be considered proper enclosure, or even though it says Vilna, it means or Lo ayu mechitzos gavoya goas asor. So it's not vilo, it's olo. Or it didn't have 10 tvachim high walls. Or vilo. Or lo ayu pirtzos yotzei me'eser. And that's not allowed to have breaks of more than 10 amos. And this port had breaks of more than 10 amos. Or velo yo'eme keneged oimed ports keneged ports. You have to have oimed keneged oimed. In other words, you have to have, if let's say on one side you have an opening, opposite on the other side's got to be a gap. Got to be not a gap, a wall. Here you have a gap, here you have to have a wall. Can't have two gaps opposite each other. So therefore, this might have been a case where in the port there were gaps opposite each other in the walls. And that's no good. In order to be enclosed area, it's got to be, if there's a gap here, there's a wall here. There's a gap here, there's a wall here. Otherwise, it's not considered fully enclosed. So therefore, it could be one of these scenarios that the port itself was not a proper enclosure. It was because too large or not properly enclosed. And that's why Imran Gamliel said we would have to be within 2,000 amos of the port before Shabbos in order to go around when we get into the port. Then, if we're in Tchum, if we're within the Tchum of the port before Shabbos began, so when Shabbos began, our Mokov Shvisa is the port, and we can walk around. But if you weren't there before Shabbos, so true Rabbi Akiva Gamliel holds, and you can walk anywhere in the enclosure. Proper enclosure. This is not a proper enclosure. Okay? Mishiyotze v'halocha gimel. Mishiyotze b'shus. Let's talk about somebody like a doctor. He goes out to save somebody's life on Shabbos. He goes michutz hatchum. Can he come back home? So Amalok Farnasa Maisa, even though they said to him, it already happened, you already saved the guy without you. Yesh lo paim amal kol ruach. He can walk 2,000 amos any direction. Imayot tocha tchum, if he was inside the tchum, kilu yo yotzo, as if he never left. Shekol yetzim, meaning that if it's 2,000 amos which given now hits his original tchum. Right, let's say we give him 2,000 amos, and that doesn't mean we give him only 2,000 amos. But from where he's standing, we give him 2,000 amos, and that hits his original tchum, his original city, the boundary around that, he gets to walk all the way back home. Okay? Anybody who goes out to save a life gets to go back home. Says Gemara, I understand. What else was your alternative? What else would you have said? Says, I'll tell you what I would have said. Should be like somebody who's compelled by Goyim to leave the city. You should only get 4 amos altogether. That's what he has to say. He's got 2,000 amos all directions. Amar Rav Chuna said, this is like, there should be 4 amos overlapping, like, Lieberman changes the gears slightly here, like, Kitchum Tveria v'Tchum Magdala. Now it's easy to treat Tveria and Magdala, therefore 3,996 amos. They overlapped a little bit, right? So that's why you can make an Erev Tchumen from one to the other very easily. So to here, if a guy wants to get back home after having left on a life-saving mission, the 2,000 ounces which you give him from where he is now has to overlap a little bit with his original tchum, and then he gets to go all the way home. Even though he has no way of tchumen, of course, but that's the permissibility. Okay? Rabbi Chuda b'shem Rav Ada bar Achva and Rabbi Lo b'shem Rabbi Shimon ben Loki said, Afilu yotza l'magdala v'chazar kilu yotza. Now, this is not clear exactly what it means, but way Lieberman explains it. It's not a question. I intoned it like a question. It's a statement. Let's say the guy was in Tveri on Shabbos, and he needed to save somebody in Magdala. So he went out towards Magdala without a Erev Tchumen. He's 1,000 amos away from Magdala. They say to him, Reb Doctor, the life was saved. He doesn't. but he continues walking on to Magdala anyway. Either because, well, once he's on the way, he might as well pay his uncle a visit, or once he's on the way, he doesn't know that he's allowed to go back home. When he's at Magdala, so he's got a problem, right? He's already well beyond this chum. Do we let him go back home anyway? So when he continued on, when he could have just turned around, do we let him now go back home? That's our shiur, okay? So, and he says yes. Even went all the way to Magdala, he could still go back home. That's okay. Rabbi Shua de Rumia boy, Rabbi Shimon de Rumia asked, Ad kedun b'shiyatza v'shoigin. That's good if he didn't know what he was doing. It was an Amalekit. He thought he had to go out to Magdala, that he couldn't turn back around. I feel it's amazing. What if Taki went to visit his uncle? Can he still go back home to Tveria afterwards? No, it's used the excuse of the life-saving mission, which was important to go on. What's the status now? Rabbi Pinchas said, "Masnisin Omer Kate." Our mission seems to indicate that you can't. It says, anybody who goes out, no matter what, go back home. So what's the problem? Says more no. Says that they can go back in with their weapons. That's true. But it doesn't say they can go back even if they were amazing. In other words, well, what Yerushalmi says, I'm saying it's all according to Lieberman. Yerushalmi says, even with their weapons. But where does it say that you're chayzer even if you were amazing? Now this is like trying to drive a bulldozer into the Gemara, because it's really not alluded to at all. What? Yeah, but the Korban, in order to say Korban explanation, you have to start changing things way back when. Lieberman makes the least amount of changes in the Pashup Pshan the Sugya. Okay? So everybody has difficulty with this last line. What's the proof from Chayzin Afilu B'Zaynon? Right? What do weapons have to do with this? We're asking where he went on to visit his uncle, what his status is. So it's not clear. Again, the way Lieberman explains it means, yeah, they can go back even with their weapons. But they can't go back if they intentionally continue on the way when they shouldn't have.
Maybe the comparison is with weapons. They're always on guard that maybe they will get attacked.
Yeah.
So the doctor has to be on call, maybe he'll have an emergency.
Yeah, but it still doesn't explain to us why he could go visit his uncle. Adarabbo, look at this rotten doctor. He should be always on call. What's it doing? He's going to visit his uncle in Magdala. Chutzpah. So we're not going to let him go back home. Anyway, the bottom line is it's a difficult statement. Ramesh has a very difficult shita about this. He says even the Oraisos, yeah. Yeah. It's a very difficult tshuva. Because we don't see the Oraisos anywhere. Ramesh is not the Oraisos. Okay. Says Moratani, Akum Shabo La'yoros Asmuchos Asfar. If Goyim cut the cities which are next to a border, Lito Man Afilu Tem and Afilu Eitzim, even they're just coming to steal straw and wood, Yoitzim Alim Bezayin Umarzin Asayin Koma, you go take weapons out on Shabbos and bring the weapons back home. Okay? You can actually go out and be Mechal Shabbos in this case. There's a Maisa which happened many years ago, 467 Warren Shalvim, that they were Mechal Shabbos to take tractors and work the fields on Shabbos, because the Arabs in the vicinity were threatening. So they actually went out and took tractors out on Shabbos based on this Gemara. Okay, the Mechal Shabbos in order to protect the Jewish village. However, that's only a city which is on the border. But if it's a city which is well within Eretz Yisrael, and you cannot be Mechal Shabbos by carrying your weapons out, unless they are threatening to kill you. But there in Shalvin, they weren't threatening to kill. It was just disputes over fields. Right? That's the Chiddush, that even though it's just disputes over fields, they're still allowed to go out and be Mechal Shabbos if it's on the border, which it was before 67. not if it's well within Eretz Yisrael. B'Rishayim Molichim Zayin. When they used to come back, they used to dump all the weapons in the first house right when they got into the wall of the city. Well, needless to say, one time, the enemies ran and pursued them. And so they pressed in to get their weapons from that warehouse. They killed each other in the stampede more than the enemies killed them. So they made takana that everybody should keep their weapon at home, keep their Uzi at home. Right? I don't think so. We have the case of Sandal and Masumar where they all
They trampled each other.
yeah, they're trampling each other to death with the sandals. That's what we have. Yeah. Okay, not this case specifically.
This makes sense also.
Yeah. Mishiyasha Baderach. Now the Lieberman brings on here so Yashan that he slept. The thing, this is a fellow who's either slept or sat down right before Shabbos. And V'Amad, he got up. V'Arein Samachlir, he didn't know before Shabbos. He was depressed, dejected, demoralized. He thought he'd have to spend Shabbos out in the field. So he sat down and cried. Sat down and went to sleep. He wakes up, it's right near his city. He didn't even notice it beforehand. So, Oil Veloitza Kamanos Lakach Loikones. So he didn't intend to be kind of shvis in the city. Tough luck! He doesn't get to go into the city. Divrei Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Meir Kodesh, Rabbi Yehuda says he gets to go in. I'm Rabbi Meisav Nicholas Rabbi Tarfon Blum Iskabe. I have a Meisav Rabbi Tarfon in such a situation. He didn't intend to acquire any entree into the city, and nonetheless, after Shabbos began, he went into the city. Amru, they said, no, that was different. V'lo beis medrashay shel Rabbi Tarfon ebesocha paim Amma. The beis medrash Rabbi Tarfon was within 2,000 amos of the city, so he was aware of the city. He was conscious of it. Or maybe there was the case where he designated that his shvisa will be with the people of the city, and he designated that before Shabbos began. Ashkechtani, so he found the brisa which says, "V'shachri zorcha lo achama." No, he didn't know about any of this. His base marriage is not within 2,000 amos of the city, and he was not aware of the city. Rather, he went to sleep at night, Friday night. When he woke up in the morning, Amrullah, they said, "Hey, Rebbe, here's the city, come on in." So he himself did not know that previously, and he went in. So clearly, this is a raya to Rabbi Yehuda that he got to go in. Okay? Now, along the same lines, somebody slept along the way. There was no city nearby. He just was sleeping throughout the twilight period until nightfall. It's got 2,000 amos in all directions. He only got 4 amos. That's it. Why is that? Because he didn't intend to acquire shvisa. He slept during the entire Ben Hashmoshos. He got nothing. He's got 4 amos. Rabbi Lezer Omer Hubem Tzom, he's in the middle of those 4 amos. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lays the ruach sheyirtze. According to Pashim Shan, this mission, that means he can put those 4 amos anywhere he wants, can draw the box anywhere around himself. However, Lieberman brings down, when I tell you this, I feel like Reuven Walter in The Chosen. I know many of you have read The Chosen, but Reuven Walter, they were into what? Reuven was the son of the.
He was the artist.
What? No, that's my name is Asher Lee. What? He's the guy who changed Curacau's. What? Emendations, right. It's more in The Promise than in The Chosen. But I remember distinctly that in his smicha test, in the promise, he changed the girsa based on the Napoli edition. And Lieberman here brings down the Napoli edition of the Mishnah. So the Napoli edition of the Mishnah says that Leiz Ruach Sheyirtze Yelech. It throws in the word Yelech. And it makes the whole Gemara work beautifully if you throw in that word. Because that means, the way Lieberman explains it, that means that he's not going on the 4 amos. You put on whatever side you want. It's going on the 2,000 amos. You put the 2,000 amos wherever you want. Now that in itself, where it says Lieberman, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Of course you get 2,000 amos in all directions. That's Pasha. So he says an amazing thing. And I have to admit, it works beautifully in the Gemara. Can see the point. I don't know if it's Emes, the Rosh Hashiva and Shalvim used to always say, between Emes and Yafeh, in Emes Biati, there are 15 words of separation. So you see, Emes and Yafeh are two different ends of the spectrum. So I don't know what Lieberman says here is Emes, but it's Yafeh. It's really beautiful. Okay, that's a aesthetic value in and of itself. So the thing is like this. So says Lieberman, Avada doesn't just get 2,000 amos in one direction. What it means is he gets 4,000 amos in whatever direction he wants. Why 4,000? Because we have halach, which we'll see in the next Mishnah. If I'm coming and I'm coming Erev Shabbos and I'm far away from the city, I spot a town in the distance, 4,000 amos away. So I say, you know what? There's a tree 2,000 amos from here. That'll be my shvisa. And then I can walk from that tree 2,000 amos. And I do this the moment before Shabbos begins. Because I'll say it's okay. It's a special leniency for a guy stuck on the road. So says Lieberman, what Rabbi Yehuda is saying here, L'makom she'yitzei means if the guy slept, I grant him the entire koyach as if he didn't sleep. Meaning he gets not just 2,000 amos, 4,000 amos. So if Adi's not stuck with 4, he's not even stuck with 2,000, he gets to whatever direction he wants, 4,000 amos, as if he had seen a tree in distance and designated that tree as his mokum shvisa. Okay? That's how he learns Yelech. Right? You can see it's once you pick the direction, that's it, you're stuck in that direction. You only get the 4,000 amos there, and you get nothing on any other side. Okay? He said, time Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What's like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who says he had 2,000 amos on all sides? If he's awake, he would have acquired shvisa. If he's sleeping, he shouldn't acquire shvisa. What's the difference? Let him acquire it regardless. He gets 2,000 amos. And now the way Lieberman changes it here slightly. Also, he says, Yoshin lo kono shvisa. He takes out the words ein lo. No, rather he gets 2,000 amos on all sides. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ilu takes out the pay. Ilu air. V'lo kono lo shvisa. Ein lo el apayim ma'amad l'chol ruach. If he was awake and he didn't acquire a specific shvisa, he could only get 2,000 amos on all sides. But now, says Lieberman, that he was asleep, I give him an advantage, and I give him not just 2,000 amos on all sides, but rather I give him 4,000 amos on one side. Were he awake, he'd be limited to 2,000. That he's asleep. Sleep is always a good thing. Sheina b'Shabbos gets you. Sheina b'Shabbos tanuk. Sheina b'Shabbos tchum. So you get an additional tchum. What?
Sheina b'bein hashmoshos is not the same as Sheina b'Shabbos.
Oh, it's a different Sheina. Oh, okay. So he gets 2,000 amos. Additional 2,000 amos in that direction. Other Rishon. Erev Shabbos, yeah. It was good to fall asleep.
Yeah, look what happened from that.
The thing is, I want to tell you, in all fairness here to myself, Lieberman brings a raya from the Rach. Rabbeinu Chanano has essentially his shot in the Gemara here. So it's not as if he made it up. Okay, so says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda said, just that. Asid Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Now Rabbi Yehuda is really going like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, meaning that you give the guy who's sleeping more a tchum, And now Lieberman throws in two words, again from the Rach, V'rubat Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. And it's more than Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Amar, Achashi lo yo'er kohen lo shvisa. Since we were awake, would have gotten shvisa, hay er v'lo kohen shvisa. But if he was awake and he wasn't kohen shvisa, he'll get 2,000 amas on one side, on all sides. So now that he's asleep, he'll get 2,000 amas on one side, on all sides. Then the Lieberman throws in a whole line here. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, now he's going to get 2,000 amas on all sides. He gets 4,000 amas on one side, whichever one he chooses. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Nachman ben Yaakov boy asked the question. It's an interesting case. A ger went to the mikveh Shabbos morning. He had his meal earlier. Now he goes to the mikveh Shabbos morning. Becomes Jewish. What's his tchum? Can he leave the mikveh? Right? What's his tchum Shabbos? He was a kind of tchum the night before, right? So the Yerushalmi says he doesn't like this question. Says whenever he's Megayah, that's when Shabbos enters for him. For him, his Bein Hashmashus is right now. It wasn't last night. For him, it's right now, right? But nonetheless, the Gemara asks the question, and the Gemara says Sheilu Hoya Er, and the Reb Chaim Kanievsky changes it. Makes sense. Sheilu Hoya Ger, right? Were he a Ger last night? Hoya L'Kohen Lo Shvisa, but he wasn't. So what's his halacha now? Ma Omar. Now says the says Yerushalmi. What's he going to say here? I forgot what that means. 1 second. I'm not sure exactly how to read it. I forgot, but the question is, what is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri going to say in this case? Right? Ma oimer amar koimer Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What's that? What is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri going to say? In other words, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says a guy who's asleep gets 2,000 amas. What about this guy who was a goy Friday night? Does he get 2,000 amas as well? So the ma omar koimer Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Somehow what the line is asking is, what's Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri going to say about this guy who was a goy last night as opposed to sleeping last night? So nishmina min adah demar. Let's learn it from here that he said. Now says Lieberman, there's a line missing here. There's no proof. Gemara immediately goes on to something else. Now, there are other ways of learning what happened here, but the way it makes sense what he's saying. It says the Shrin Damar is Damar, but there's no Damar. And immediately Yerushalmi goes on to something else. Rabbi Shimon says the Loch Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. That's fine. I look like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, but that doesn't prove anything about the ger, right? So you have to change something around. Lieberman, as I said, changed around. He says there was a raya here and it got lost over time. It says the mar something, and it's gone. The other way to change around is to say that, like to change around the Gemara substantially, the Gersos, start playing with the Gersos, and make the Gemara coax out of the Gemara, that the Gemara is saying, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, the goy's got 2,000. The goy who became a ger has now got 2,000 amos, right? So you have to say Ma Omar Ka'amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, like we would say, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, because the Ma Rabbi Yitzchak ben Nachman Shemer Shem Level Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So just like Paskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, by Yoshe we Paskin like him by a ger. So somehow or another we'd have to play with it in order to make it work out. The bottom line is that we want to try and give the ger 2,000 amos, just like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri gives the 2,000 amos. Okay? Now, here's the line where Lieberman comes in especially helpful. Bira lo mibod yom, choser mibod yom. If you chose those 4,000 hours before Shabbos began, you can renege on it before Shabbos begins. Mishachashecha, if you chose it after Shabbos began, choser bo mishachashecha, you can renege on it after Shabbos began. Now, everybody goes nuts here. How can you pick a tchum after Shabbos begins? When do you pick tchum? Ben Hashmoshos, you can't pick it after Shabbos begins. Lieberman says, no, but like me, it's very good. Because like me, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the guy who fell asleep, when does he pick his 4,000 amos? When he wakes up on Shabbos. So there's one case where he can pick a tchum when he wake up on Shabbos. So that's it says, Mishachah Sheikha. Okay? Bir lo mibod yom is very nice. I told you, it's Yofet for sure is. Bir lo mibod yom. B'kiddush leva yom. He picked a tchum for him before Shabbos begins. And then Shabbos begins. Yishminu min ado. Let's start out from here. Now, in other words, once Shabbos begins, he was yeah, the way it works here, according to Lieberman, is Bir lo mibod yom, the guy chose the direction. The Kiddush leva yom, then he fell asleep, and now it became Shabbos. So now he changed his mind. Though it's where he didn't change before Shabbos, where he didn't pick before Shabbos, he fell asleep. So when he wakes up, he can for sure designate. The shiur is here, he didn't designate before Shabbos. He did designate before Shabbos. But then, does falling asleep wipe out the slate, and can he choose it again? Okay, so that's Gemara's question. So, Bir lo miyod yom, v'kish lo v'yom, v'shmina me'ado. Let's start out from here. Lo yikone, Steve Rabbi Meir. It says you can't go to the city. That means you can't wipe it out. Once you chose, you fell asleep. Afterwards, tough luck. You have to remain with what you chose. Rabbi Meir says you can go in. It means you can wipe out your original choice. So we see that once a guy sleeps, he can start over again. That's what we see. Says the Gemara. If that's the case, now here Lieberman throws in a whole other line. Says, yeah, but I got a problem then. Because then at the end of the Mishnah it said, at the end of the Mishnah, once you choose the direction, you can't renege on the deal. So now, how can you say that Rabbi Yehuda holds you can renege on the deal once you fell asleep? We say before you can't renege on the deal. Says the Gemara, Lol Hador Marah. Where he said he can't renege, he wasn't going on our Mishnah. El Aresha the Pirka is going back to the beginning of the parak. It says Mishiotziu Akum Ruach Ra. It says some of you, the Goyim took him out, or he was taken out because he went insane. And that he only gets Daled Amos. And he only gets to choose one Daled Amos. And that is Amr Salah Rabbi Boon Mod Rabbi Yerushalmi Eruvin. And that said Rabbi Boon, that's what Rabbi Yehuda said, you can't renege. A guy who fell asleep, vis-a-vis Tchum Shabbos, he can renege and change his mind once he wakes up after Shabbos began. A guy who was taken out on Shabbos and only gets 4 amos, those 4 amos only gets in one direction. He can't renege on that. Okay, that was the hard part. Now it gets very easy. Now this is what I told you at the beginning of the evening. I have 4 amos over here. You got 4 amos over here. Right? So we can bring, actually, one of them, let's say we share 1 amma in common, or 2 ammas in common. I have 4, you have 4, one overlaps. So, we can bring the food to the middle. I can take from my area to your area, and vice versa, right? Can't take from one to the other. What if there's 3 guys? The 3, each one overlaps with the guy next to him, right? So then, he can go to either side to eat a meal with either one of them. They're allowed to eat with him. But the 2 outer ones can't get to each other, obviously. Rabbi Shimon says, what is this analogous to? To 3 courtyards which are open to each other, and they're open to Rishus Rabim as well. If they both in the Eruv Chatzeres with the middle one, he can carry the middle one, carry to each one of them, and vice versa. But the 2 outer ones are also to each other. Now, says here the Korban Eder changed gears, and so is Reb Chaim Kanievsky. But you don't have to. The Pnei Moshe doesn't. Avogat Reb Chanina ben Antigonus Poligar Rabbanan Ba'amos. Reb Chanina Antigonus argues Rabbanan Ba'amos. Says the 4 amos you get Rabbi Yisrael. You're stuck on Shabbos. The 4 amos you get. How do you get them? Normally we say you get them in a square. Not Reb Chanina ben Antigonus. He holds you get a circle. A 4 amos radius around yourself. So your argument's there. But even though your argument's there, I forgot the Rabbi Chaim, there's probably Rabbanan Ba'amos, Moidu Hachad B'Burei Hayaros. You can see it's when you measure a city. Remember in the Bavli we said you measure a city, you give the Tchum Shabbos around the city, there you square off the city. Yaakov, when you give the Tchum of 2,000 amos around the city, it's not a round circle. There it's a square based on the size of the city. First you square off the city, and then you give that as a square. Misha Baba there, somebody was walking down the road for the case I told you before. It's going to become nightfall imminently. For Yamakir Elon or God, and he saw that this is 2,000 amos away. A tree or a fence. V'amar, he says, she saw si tachtav, I want my sheets to be underneath the tree. Lo amar klum, it does nothing. Because you can't require shvitza under a tree. Under a tree is the airspace. Where do you require shvitza? On an object. The word tachtav is bad. It doesn't work. Shvisasi bikaro. If he says, I want my shvisa to be at the base of the tree, then that's good. You go from where you are to the base of the tree, 2,000 amos, and then make korba base of mama. And you go from the root from the root of the tree into his house, another 2,000 amos. He gets 4,000 amos after nightfall. He made a makir if he doesn't see a tree. Or in a buki ba'aloche, he doesn't know the halacha, and therefore he's stuck. He says, I give up. My shvis is where I am. He gets around 2,000 amos. He gets a square 2,000 amos. Ketavlu merubos, like a square block. So he gets an additional another 800 amos on the angles. Let's say I got good glasses. I went to Dr. Spindel, and the other guy didn't, right? They make a buddy system. The guy who sees walks with the guy who doesn't see. There's a she'enu makir, and the guy who doesn't see walks with the guy who sees. I can give him my shvisa to somebody else. I say, you have good glasses. You find us a place, and you dead 2,000 amos away. You designate that as a mark of shvisa for the 2 of us. Okay? Zeu shamru. Now this case, which you just talked about, is conceptual. I can make an eruv by walking somewhere. Here it's even better, the truth is, because I can make an eruv by picking a spot in a distance. This would only matter if I got stuck, but that's much better, right? Only a poor person can do this, and of course the person who's stuck eruv Shabbos. Even a rich person can go walk somewhere and say, here I am, it's Bein Hashmoshos, this is my Tchum Shabbos. I'm Kovered here. As Shalo Amru Marvim Pas, the only reason they said they can make an eruv with the bread is El-Hakir Allah Ashir, to make it easier for Asher. Shema Yetze V'Yar V'Aglo, lest Chas Sholem, he has to go and make an eruv by walking out there. They said he's allowed to send a piece of bread with somebody else. He doesn't have to go on his own 2 feet. Okay? Says Rameir Savar, Ika Ego B'Kikor. Rameir Absil is very easy what the Gemara says. Rameir Absil is the primary area of the piece of bread. The Lama Amru, why did they say beraglov, that a person can make an eruv with his feet, to make it easier for an ani, for a poor person who doesn't have a piece of bread. Rabbi Omer ikar beraglov. The primary eruv is with your feet, therefore you can use your feet no matter what, even not a poor person. The Lord room would be kikar. Why they let why they say you can use bread? To make it easier for a rich guy, it shouldn't have to go out on his own 2 feet. Now, even though Rabbi Yehuda said the primary eruv is by going out, I don't know what he's about to say is obvious. I don't know what the Yerushalmi has to tell us. Don't take it even further. Don't say, I'll sit home. And he'll say, oh, I know the red oak 2,000 amas away. Let that be my makom shvitza. You can't do that. You got to actually walk out there. Raglov means raglov. Not that he should go and say verbally that should be makom shvitza. Right? Elo yetzel chutzatchum. He should leave the tchum. Now, lav davka chutzatchum means, because chutzatchum obviously be too far. Right? Yetzei chutz, you should go outside latchum to the 2,000 amma boundary. V'yorme says tikna li shvisa b'makom hazeh, and you should go say acquire shvisa there. He waits till darkness, till night falls. The when he comes back to the city. The Tani came also in the Brisa. Maisa mishpachas base mama, mishpachas base kuyo, miroima, whoever they were. Shemachalkin the groigos vanim b'shtei batzaros. They were rich, and they used to give out dates to poor people in their famine years. Avayu aniyah shichin, so the people of the city of Shichin, which was 4,000 amas away, would be yoytzu, would go Umar and Raglim make an eruv with their feet the night before. Matir Shamat Sheter Shach, wait till darkness fell. And the next day they would go to the city where these rich families were and eat and come back. And these families, everything they did based on Chazal. So if we see that it worked, it must be Zamari Baraglov is a valid form making an eruv. It's possible. It was a family from Rome which lived in Beis Gurion probably then.
Can't you just say that it's a matter of Chatila with the Evid?
Yeah.
That you should have.
Right. The question is though which is which. Right? Meiro is the Chatchila's bread. Raviro is the Chatchila's the feet.
Even the feet.
Chatchila, yeah. The bread is only a cooler for a rich guy. He doesn't have to go out himself. Okay, Mishiyotza Leilach Leir. This is a very interesting case. We didn't spend enough time on it in the Bavli. Somebody who goes out to a city. Shema Eruvin book. Now, this is somebody, he's the agent of the entire city. This is the guy, the city of Chicago, we appointed Yankel to be our shliach to make an eruv tchumen for us. It was our stupidity, Yankel's a klutz. So what happened was, Yankel went out to make an eruv tchumen. He went out to make an eruv tchumen for us. He met a friend on the way. Shmerel. Shmerel said, Yankel, I'll take care of it. You go back home. So Yankel goes back home. Needless to say, Shmerel never takes care of it. So what's the halacha in this case? Okay, he went out to go to another city to make an eruv tchumen there. His friend said, Shmerel said to him, don't worry, Yankel, I'll take care of it. Hu muter leilech. Even though he never actually got to the 2,000 amos. But he started going. That's like Erev Baraglov. That's sufficient to be Erev Baraglov since he started going. So he's got an Erev Tchumen. But Chol B'nei here, all the people in the city were relying on Yaakov. Asurin, Rabbi Yehuda, they don't got nothing. Because Yaakov never went himself. Now Yaakov never put down the Erev Tchumen. He started going. For himself, that's good enough. He gets the Erev, but not the guys who relied on it. In this case, where Yaakov could have gone and should have gone and would have gone, had Shmerel not made him to go back, so it's not even valid for him. And nobody's got anything. Not only that, everybody loses here. Because since he started going, they lose the 2,000 amos on the other side of the city. So they lost the 2,000 amos on the other side of the city because he started going. They didn't gain the 2,000 amos on this side of the city because he never completed going. Okay? Tough luck. It's a tough religion. Says Gemara. Pasala train pisri. Now, literally that means they solved it in two ways. But the truth is these are not solutions of the Mishnah. These are just two different approaches, not directly tied into the Mishnah. What happened? Amar Shmerel said, don't worry, uncle, you go back home. I'll be married for you and the people of your city. He was, and this case, this is not the case of our Mishnah, it's a separate case. Shmerel went out and made an Eruv for the people of the city, but not for Yankel. Okay, for the people of the city, but not for Yankel. Who also leich boso ruach? He's also to go on that side. Umuter b'shar kol arucho shebeiro, and he's mutter on all the other sides of his city. Vehein mutarin, the rest of the people of the city. Well, since Shmerel did it for them, hey mutarin boso ruach, they're mutter on that way, on that side. They get the extra 2,000 amos. Vasur b'shar kol arucho shebeiro. And they're not allowed to go on any other side. Okay, they have to go specifically by the area which Shmerel put down for them. The truth is, this contradicts the Mishnah. I realize that because here saying explicitly Yankel loses his tchum. So now I see. I didn't understand it when I was preparing, obviously. The Bnei Moshe says, this taka way to touch up the Mishnah. Because you could say, Hu mutter leilech, doesn't mean he's mutter to go in that direction. It means he can go in any other direction. In other words, he's touching up the Mishnah the exact opposite of the way we touch it up. When it says, Hu mutter leilech, it means he can go in any other direction around the city, but not this direction. Because in this direction we allowed on Shmerel, and Shmerel didn't do it for him, right? And when it says Chobnei Asurin, exact opposite of what we said before. The rest of the people said they're also to walk in any other direction. They're allowed to walk in this direction, the extra 2,000 amos, because Shmerel put down the Eruv in this direction for them. That's one way of learning it, not the way we learned the Mishnah, the exact opposite of the way we learned the Mishnah.
The way we learn the Mishnah is the way the text is.
The way the text reads, which is the next one. The next one. The way we read it is the next case. Upasal Achron, another version. Amarle Anamar V'loch B'abnei Kartach. Shmerel said, I'll do it. V'lo Yirev, lo love, v'lo b'nei Kartach. And didn't make an Eruv neither for Yankel nor for the people in the city. Who mutter leich boso ruach? He can still go in that direction. Shekvar konelo raglav miasmo. Because he already started walking yesterday, that's good enough. They're forbidden to walk in that direction because no Eruv was put down for them and they didn't start walking physically in that direction. And they're allowed to go, however, in any other direction. Why is it not?
Because they start going in that direction, but he never finished.
No, we said that's good enough. We said that's as if he was married Baragla. Yeah. The Potter Achron is the way we read the Mishnah. Okay? That he's allowed to go. Okay. Let's see if we can finish the parak. We have 5 minutes. Somebody went beyond the Tchum. Afilu Amachas went one arm beyond this 2,000 lo yikones. Stay the rest of Shabbos. Can't come back in. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Lazar Omer, Shtayim yikones. Went out 2 amos, you can still come back in. Shalosh lo yikones. Went out 3 amos. I guess it's the majority of 4 amos. So then already it should come in and come back in. So if he's running towards the city and he doesn't make it into the Tchum, he's 1 arm outside the Tchum before Shabbos begins, lo yikones, he can't come in. Shomer afilu tes vav amayikais. Even if it's 15 amas beyond the tchum, he can come in. She'am shuchos mimatzinas amidos. When they measure, they don't measure precisely. They really measure not 2,000, but 1985. So meet Natan, because those who make mistakes and go too far or come too far. So therefore, he's still, even if it's 2,015 amas away from the city, he's really only 2,000 amas away from the city and can come into the city on Shabbos. Rabbi Yachushim, Rabbi Chanina, and Rabbi Chisda, Tarvei Rami, they both said, Lomar Elashtaim. It's only if you're 2 amos outside that you can still come back in. Hashtayim v'koshu, but if you're 2 amos and something beyond the tchum, it should be the typo here. It says lo yikones. He can't come back in, right? To Rabbi Lezer, that's what Rabbi Lezer said. To Rabbi Lezer, shtayim yikones, shlosh lo yikones. If it's 2 outside the tchum, he can come in. If it's 3, he can't come in, and that means dafka 2. If it's 2.1, he can't come back in. Rabbi Yisrael said, I'm in the Basra. Look at what it says afterwards. Look at the last thing he said. If it's 3 amos outside, he can't come back in. But if it's a little bit less than 3, if it's only 2.9 outside, then he can come back in. And of course, it's the Rabbana we should make. Have him boil a memar. That's that they wanted to say. Madamar Rabbi Lezer biyoytze. That which Rabbi Lezer said that if you find someone 15 amos outside the city, then you could still come back in. That's only if you start in the city and you left. So we say you made an honest mistake. You're still within the tchum because they don't make it exact, so you can come back in. That's right. But where you we're outside and running towards the city, Yitaka don't come to get to come in 15 amos. So you only get 1 amma. He agrees with the Tanaim at the beginning of the Mishnah. That's what they wanted to say. Ashkechtani hi ador. They found the price to say according to are both the same. You always get 15 amos beyond the tchum, whether you're coming from inside the city and you inadvertently left, or you're coming from outside the city and trying to get in before Shabbos. Having boiled the man, they wanted to say Madamar. Oh, I made a mistake. That was Rabbi Shimon, not Rabbi Elazar. What I just told you is the last part of the word. I'm boiled man Madamar Rabbi Shimon Machshich. That which Rabbi Shimon said, the exact opposite of what I said before. Sorry, made a mistake. I got the names mixed up. Let me do it quickly again. I'm boiled man Madamar Rabbi Elazar. That which Rabbi Elazar said, if you went out too, you can come back in. That's somebody who left. But if you're running towards the city, even if you're 1 amma outside, tough luck. In other words, the 2 amos he give you is only if you're leaving the city and you will go inadvertently over. But if you're running towards the city, you got to make it into the tchum mamish. So then they found Ashkechtani yado. You always get 2 amos beyond, whether you're coming from inside the city out or you're running from outside the city back in. Now, having boy meir madamar Rabbi Shimon, that which Rabbi Shimon said, you get 15 extra amos. That's why machshir, where you're running towards the city, you get 15 extra amos to chapa right to come in. But if you leave the city, you only get 1 or 2 amos, like the Reish of the Mishnah said. Ashkech lo says Gemara. Ashkechtani yado. So they came and found that it's not true. Regardless, you always get 15 extra amos, no matter what the story is. We'll stop here for this evening. I knew that's why you didn't come this morning, because I told you yesterday to get up to there. So when I tell you, you don't come. Yes, I did get up to there.